Hey, Shalom, Shalom. I Rob Tawab, which is good evening. HaYawam, Shanya, Shabawai, Shalash, Chadash, Chamas, which is today is the second day of the week, of the third week of the month, of the fifth month of the year, which is May. Anakna Waha Aibar, Sha'ala Hawalakim La'atam, Call Shabawai, Baharcha, Wakakshaw, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Ma'amath, with the Hebrew Israelites, coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, Israelite foreigners. Nacham Atam, Kaya Hamalakwath, Hashemayim Korab, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Kahalayim La, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Racha Kodash, Wamashana, Kabadim Zukwim Nawa, Wa Malakam Sharish Lazukwim Racha Gadawa, Wa Chasa, Wa Shalawam, Wa Barakim, Laha, Bachayim Shahagab Shalawam. All right, so all praise to the Most High Yahweh, which means He exists. Bahasham, in the name Yahweh Shai delivers. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Israel, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Mercy, peace, and blessings to the elect, the nation of Israel. Shalom, which means peace. So today's lesson is going to be entitled HaDabar Shal HaYawam, the word of the day, which is Chaakamah, which goes into wisdom. All right, which I got it pulled up right here. It says Chaakamah. It says wisdom, skill in war, wisdom in administration, shrewdness, wisdom, prudence, and religious affairs, wisdom, ethical, and religious. It says wisely in a good sense. It says wisdom, see more as to the idea which this comprises under the word. So pretty much get the root word, Sharash Dabar. So we'll go to the root word, Sharash, which is root. Dabar is going to be word. So the root word comes from Chakam, which means to be wise or become wise, act wisely, to make wise. It says teach wisdom, instruct, to show one's wisdom. It says in mind, word, or act. So pretty much when you look at the world, when you look at everything has wisdom in it. All right, and that's because the Lord created everything. So let's get a couple precepts just going into that point. This is Chaakamah Shal Shalamah, which is Solomon, chapter 7, which will be Shabai Wa. We're going to start at 17, which is Shabai Aishara 17. It says, for he hath given me certain knowledge of things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements. All right, let's go into this. It says the operation of elements. Let's get that word right there. Because pretty much it's going into what is the so-called like periodic table and like science, which essentially this word goes into truth or to know. It goes into knowledge more specifically. It says science, madai, knowledge, thought, knowledge, mind, thought, place of knowledge, intelligence or consciousness, which pretty much ties into or coincides with wisdom. All right, because that root word going into yadai, it says to know, learn to know, to perceive, see, and see, find out and discern, to discriminate, distinguish, to know by experience. Let me get the point. It says to have knowledge, be wise. So science ties into the wisdom. Everything has wisdom in it. Baha Aratazah in the world. All right, let's keep going. Let's get the 18th verse. Shabai Wa Shamawana Aishara of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7. Let's go back. This is Wisdom of Solomon 7 and verse 18. It says the beginning, ending, and the midst of times, the alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of seasons. All right, so when you go into the beginning, All right, when the Lord created the heavens and the earth, or it's like the heavens and the earth, you know, going into the past, Ibar, all right, history, which that Ibar loosely translates to history, all right, ending, which will be Atayad, the future. Let's get a couple precepts. This is Yeshaya, also Isaiah chapter 41 and verse 21. It says, produce your cause, saith the Lord. Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the king of Yaqub, Malak Shal Yaqub, king of Jacob. Let them bring them forth, and shew us what shall happen. Aitayah, the future. Let them shew the former things. Ibar, the history, what they be, that we may consider them, and know the latter end of them, or declare us the things for to come. Aitayah, the prophecy, or what's going to happen in the future. All right, because the Lord is the only one that can do that. All right, and these different other books and stuff like that, they only got it from the scriptures. Everybody is under the rulership of the Lord, you see, so everybody obeys his will. All right, and everything is found in his scriptures. It's not going to be found in Islam, you know, because essentially all these other different like idols and stuff like that, they take parts of the scriptures and then mix them into what they want to mix them into. All right, it says, or declare us the things for to come, shew the things that are to come hereafter, that we may know that ye are gods, yet do good or do evil, that we may be dismayed and be held together. So pretty much do anything. It says, behold, ye are of nothing, and your work of naught. An abomination is he that chooseth you. All right, so pretty much these idols are worthless. It's no wisdom in these idols. You go to Habakkuk. Let's get that real fast. Habakkuk chapter 2, and go to verse 16. 19, it says, woe unto him that saith to the wood. Verse 18, what profited the graven image that the maker thereof have graven it? So why did the maker of this graven image make it? Because it's going to come to no avail. It says the molten image and the teacher of lies, there's no wisdom in that the maker of his work trusted therein to make dumb idols. They don't even speak. It says, woe unto him that saith to the wood, awake, to the dumb stone, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in the midst of it. All right, and that breath essentially goes back to the wisdom. It's no understanding in these different things. You see, nothing can go into why the things are the way that they are. All right, Esau can put different things. Oh, well, you know, animals do this because of that. You know, like everything has a particular purpose, and it has the wisdom that the Lord put it in place to do. Or essentially, the Lord ordained each creation and creature for a particular purpose. And Esau, you know, whatever he it's some truth to what he says, you know, but it's not in totality what the actual creation was made to do, you know. So let's keep going. Let's get we can go back to that Isaiah, Yeshaya, chapter 41, and verse 23 or 24. It says, behold, ye are of nothing, and your work of naught. An abomination is he that chooseth you. All right, so these idols are nothing. All right, they're not filled with any wisdom. All right, let's get because it says, going back to that wisdom of Solomon, it says in the midst of the times, which is Hawa, the present. All right, so through the wisdom sent by the Lord, you know, we have the knowledge on the Hawa, the present. All right, what's going on right now, the current events. All right, the MOTB. You see the why things are happening the way they are. Why the food is poisoned. Why 2/3 of Jake is bugged out. Why Esau is doing what he's doing. All right, we got the knowledge of that. All right, which specifically this is going into Shalamah, Solomon, which essentially Solomon or Yahweh in one of his generations was Solomon, Shalamah. All right, so moving on, let's get actually, let me get a precept real fast. This is 2nd Isaiah, also Ezra chapter 15 In verse 1, it says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. All right, and he's going to, the prophecies going to different times, periods of time in history, you see, but I'm applying this to like the current events, you see, because the things we have occurring nowadays, in the present are in the scriptures. All right, it says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. All right, because pretty much everything in the scriptures is going to occur. Isaiah 34:16. Fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction, which we're seeing those things start to occur more and more. All right, the famine, the death. All right, the destruction is pending. All right, but we're seeing the sword increase, the famine, the death. All right, which is only going to increase. All right, until the Lord comes back. Continuing on. All right, because again, wisdom is in everything. Let's get HaYawam, Job. HaYawam. Job chapter 38, and we're gonna start at verse 8. It says, we'll start at verse 1. It says, Then the Lord answered HaYawam out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of the Most High shouted for joy? Or who shut up the sea? Who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as if it had issue out of the womb? All right, when you go into break forth, it goes into Gayak, like Gayakwan, which is the Nile River. Because pretty much when you go into that, which should be Barashit, Genesis chapter 2 and 13, it says, and the name of the second river was Gayakwan. The same as the same it is that compasses the whole land of Ethiopia, Kawash. And when you go into Gayakwan, it says a river so called from its bursting forth. So pretty much like if you look at like a river, it rushes like it has like a lot of power behind the like the waves, so to speak. All right, but going back, I wanted to get that point because it ties into this. HaYawam, Job 38 and verse 8. It says, or who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as if it had issue out of the womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and break up for it my decreed place, and set bars and doors. Pretty much going into, well, I'm going to keep going. This is and said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. So pretty much that's going to the shoreline. I'm going to get another one. It's going to the shoreline because Esau will tell you, oh, it's from the waves, the waves is kind of like the shoreline goes back and back because, I'm just throwing things out there like climate change and like the waves is like eroding the land. But no, like the Lord is in charge of that because the Lord set forth particular decrees and ordinances. He set everything to his liking. All right, let's get Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 22. It says, fear ye not me, saith the Lord. Will ye not tremble at my presence, which have placed the sand for the bound of the sea, by perpetual decree that it cannot pass? And though the waves thereof toss themselves, yet can they not prevail. Though they roar, yet can they not pass over it. And pretty much going into what we just read in HaYawam, Job 38 and verse 8 through 11, going into how the Lord set those particular decrees and ordinances to where the water doesn't past a certain point. All right, continuing on, and that's going into the wisdom. That's part of that. That's wisdom. All right. Want to get that word. I wanted to get that word. It was ordinance. Salak. I had a couple more precepts. Give me a second. I'm gonna go down to verse 12. It says, "Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the day spring to know his place?" All right, this is pretty much going into the day spring, going into dawn. It says, have ye ever commanded the morning to appear, and caused the dawn to rise in the east, because the sun rises in the east? So pretty much everything, the Lord got everything on lock. You see the shoreline. The Lord commands the sun when to commands the sun when to rise, when for the sun to go down, when for the fish to eat food, as this whole chapter goes into, when animals eat their food, pretty much. All right, Job 38. All right, continuing on, we can get verse, which I'm pretty much going around in this chapter. I'm gonna go down to verse 31. It says, "Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades," which that goes into Chaakamah, "or loose the bands of Orion, Kasayah? Canst thou bring forth Mazarath," which that's Mazarwath, in his season, "or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth?" Hey, so pretty much going back to everything has a purpose. All right, even when you go into the stars, all right, each particular creation has a purpose. All right, which this goes into like the zodiacs, which we'll get more understanding about that in heaven, because Esau then like tainted it, and made it into something that it wasn't, but everything has a purpose. All right, it says, "Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth?" All right, let's get that word ordinance. It says Hakwa. It says statute, ordinance, limit. All right, going into that sea limit. All right, the shoreline, enactment, something prescribed, statute, a custom, manner, which goes into Chwak. It says ordinance, something prescribed, action prescribed for oneself, ordinance, decree, civil enactments prescribed by the Most High. All right, ordinance, an appointment. So pretty much everything has an appointment or a decree in wisdom. Everything has a purpose. Everything has wisdom in it. All right, when you go into the stones, when you go into even man ourselves, when you go into the grass, when you go into things like spiders, they all all have wisdom in them, and they're all created for a particular purpose. All right, continuing on, we're gonna get let's get the HaYawam Psalms chapter 89 verse 37. It says, "It shall be established forever as the moon, Hayarak, and as a faithful witness in heaven, Salah." All right, and the point pretty much that I want to get from this was the moon. That's another creation that has wisdom in it. All right, and the moon is forever. All right, that's an ordinance of heaven. All right, which when you go into Bara'ashi, Genesis, it goes into like the moon and the stars being like the ordinances of the night. All right, let's get another precept. This is the HaYawam Psalms 136 and verse 9. or verses 5 through 9. It says, the HaYawam 136 and 5. To him that by wisdom made the heavens, all right, by wisdom, because wisdom again is in everything, made the heavens, for his mercy endureth forever. To him that stretched out the earth above the waters, for his mercy endureth forever. To him that made great lights, for his mercy endureth forever. And pretty much it's repeating over and over and over, that the Lord is great of mercy. All right, but then there's a balance to it, because you don't just use that as a cloak of maliciousness. All right, it says the sun to rule by day, for his mercy endureth forever. The moon and the stars to rule by night. HaYawam wa Kawakabim, which is stars, to rule by night, for his mercy endureth forever. So pretty much that's going into another ordinance of a creation. All right, going into that wisdom, And again, Esau likes to put different things and say, hey, this is why this is, but each thing has a particular purpose. And let's just prove that. This is Bon Sirach, chapter 43, and verse 6. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. All right, so pretty much the moon, it'll tell you, what time you're in. It tells you what day of the week it is. All right, the first day. All right, when it's the first day of the month, it's the new moon. It's pretty much 7 days after that, Shabbat. It'll tell you the holy days. It also declares like the seasons. All right, let's get that. This is what I'm gonna keep going. It says, from the moon is the sign of feast, going into the holy days, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. All right, when it says a light that decreaseth in her perfection, so as it gets more, when it nears the new moon, it basically wanes, gets darker. It says, the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above and shining in the firmament of heaven. All right, so pretty much that's an ordinance of the Lord. All right, continuing on, let's get that precept. This is the HaYawam 104 and verse 19. It says, he appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. So pretty much, again, the moon declares the times and the season that you're in. All right, continuing on. Back to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 20. It says, the natures of living creatures and the furies of wild beasts, the violence of winds and the reasonings of men, the diversities of plants and the virtues of roots. Now we know all of this through the wisdom sent by the Lord. Let's get a quick precept. This is Bon Sirach, chapter 12 and verse 13. It says, who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts? All right, through the wisdom we understand, hey, you're just not going to walk up to any old, like a rattlesnake or like a wolf or something, and just pet it, because we don't have the same dominion that we once had. Going back to the garden, you see. We'll get that back in the kingdom, you see. But through the wisdom we understand, hey, like animals are pretty much dangerous, all right, on this side. Now going back, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 19, 20. It says, the violence of winds and the reasonings of men. All right, through the wisdom we understand that, hey, whatever, people outside of the truth is into, pretty much going into psychology, whatever they're into, it just goes back to some idol, and we know that that's ultimately going to come to no avail. All right, let's get the word for, it said the reasonings of men, which pretty much goes into, like I said, psychology. But the Hebrew word for thoughts will be machashabah, thought, device, plan, purpose. All right. Actually, let me get this. Well, that's no word for reasoning. Oh no. Let's see what this says. Well, a better word was thoughts. All right, so we know that the thoughts of men that's not in this truth, pretty much they can come to avail because they ultimately go back to some idol. All right, all of that we understand through the wisdom. I got one more precept. This is Yeshaya chapter 33 and verse 6. It says, "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure." All right, and we ultimately understand that through the wisdom, all right, coinciding with that tawa, the elect is going to have both. All right, and ultimately that's going to be the stability of the times that we're in and the times coming up in Yaquab Tazarah, Jacob's trouble. All right, so HaDabar Ratazah, Zabanaya Pa, Lord's will, that was a beautiful edification through the spirit. Wa HaDabar Ratazah, Atham, Yash, Layala Tawab, Lord's will, you all have a good night. Hey, Shalom.